What is your strategy? What is it that you are trying to accomplish? And is that thing fully aligned with who you are and where you are? And have you done enough prep so that you know what you need in order to get to the thing that you say you want? That's why it's really important to have a strategy. And no matter whether you're building a career or you're building a business or you're building a life, it all comes down to two things: strategy and people. And how do you know the people you need around you to help you if you don't know where you're going? So this week on the Rutledge Perspective, I want to talk about that issue of having a strategy and having time to develop a strategy. I don't know about many of you, but one of the things that is hardest for me is to make the time, I won't say find time, make the time to sit still and really focus on strategy. Now, I normally do that towards the end of the year, getting ready for the next year. But it's important, even as you go through the year, to revisit your strategy, to think about new things you need to do or changes you need to make. And I often forgot to do that or don't make time to do that. And so one of the things that I encourage you to do is to think about all of the things that you've got going on and how are and when are you making time to actually revisit your strategy. If things aren't working the way you intended them to work, are you really clear on what it is you're trying to do? What is your destination? What are the outcomes that you are trying to make happen? And did you put in place a strategy to get you there? Because if you can focus on where you're trying to go, a strategy simply becomes a plan to get there that enables you to have a level of flexibility, a level of adaptability that allows you to take in after acquired information to adjust along the way. But if you don't have any kind of strategy, you're just kind of floating in the wind. As the quote I said, it's okay if everybody's rowing in the same direction, but what if the direction is wrong or something like that was what the quote is. So having everybody go with you is great. But if you're going down the wrong path, you're just going down the wrong path alone. But if you stop and pause and take the time to really develop a strategy for what you're trying to accomplish, it is more likely that you'll be able to get to the thing, or notice along the way that the thing that you thought was the thing really isn't the thing. It's another thing. And your strategy enables you to be adaptable and flexible and move enough to be able to flex when you need to. But without a strategy, you're just kind of throwing spaghetti up against the wall. If you are looking to redesign your career, all you know in this moment is what I'm doing now just isn't it. If that's all you know, number one, kudos to you, because it's got to start somewhere. That's all you know. Before you take some kind of dramatic step and just do something really crazy, take the time to sit still and think about what it is you really want to do and develop a strategy to get there. Because here's the deal. Even if what you're doing right now isn't it, at least you're doing it, right? Reset the perspective and say, I know this isn't it, but it is at least going to fund me until I get to it. And so take that time to say, I want to do something completely different. Or there are some skills that I've developed within this job, business, organization, whatever, community, that I actually want to build upon because I see a definitive need and I know I can fill that need. I just have to put the structure around it to be able to do so. Take the time to understand what it is you're going to deliver that's different or what you're going to change and develop a process or a strategy to make that happen. And once you look at that strategy, which includes not only what you're trying to get to, but what do you already have in place that can help you? It includes what is all the stuff I'm missing that I need to get there? And when you understand that, you can begin to put people in place or skills in place or steps in place that enable you to fill the gaps that you need. As Liv always says, time is not renewable. And I would say time is one of your greatest resources, along with money, right? And energy. You can get more money. You can rejuvenate and revitalize your energy, but you can't get back time. And so part of your strategy when you decide where you are and where you want to go, and what are the steps that need to be taken in order for you to ensure the greatest probability of success, part of that is deciding, where am I going to spend my resources? Am I going to spend time, or am I going to spend money to get to the thing? Especially if it's trying to fulfill a gap. How am I going to make sure that I am renewing my energy so that I have the ability to think clearly, to act upon the things that I've put in place, to put my plan of action in play? What am I going to do about my resources that will propel me towards the thing that I say I want? And that comes back to understanding what your strategy is. What am I going to do? Who am I and where am I? What is it that I want? And then what is it going to take, and what am I willing to do to make it happen? And I add that second piece of that last question because we can know all day long what it's going to take to get there. It's a whole different self-discussion to say, what am I willing to do to make it happen? Am I willing to hustle? And y'all know how I feel about that word. How hard am I willing to work? What am I willing to sacrifice? Am I willing to humble myself enough to understand what I don't know and ask for assistance? What am I willing to do as I look at this strategy and develop it so that it gives me the greatest probability of being successful? What am I willing to do to get myself to the place I say I want? I mentioned reading Level Up with Stacey Abrams and Laura Hodgson. And one of the things they talk about is, what do you want your business to be? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to happen when you're done, when you're ready to retire or ready to go do something else? What's the plan? What's the strategy, right? And they mention that because we often don't think about the end game when we're starting something. We often don't think about what is going to be the next step once I've achieved this thing, because we get so myopic on the thing that we don't think bigger and broader about the next day, the next hour, once the achievement is made. And the challenge with that is, especially if you are building a business that's going to have team or a product or something like that, and you want it to be a going concern long after you are gone, your strategy has to include succession. Not only succession of people, but maybe the turning over of assets, maybe the sale of the business, right? The investment of the business. You get investors along the way, or you find a way to share equity in the business so that when you're ready to walk away, someone just buys you out, or you continue to have equity, right? And you become a silent partner. But that becomes part of your strategy. What is this going to look like when I'm tired? What is this going to look like if something happens to me, heaven forbid? What is my plan, my long-term plan, my long-term strategy for this thing I say that I want? And we tend to plan in short bursts, which is really good because we're trying to address immediate pain. But it's also important to think longer term, short, mid, and long range, because those long-term decisions or desires can often impact how you begin to execute your strategy. As they say, move with keeping the end in mind. Move by keeping the end in mind. So as you're moving, you can determine, is this derailing me from where I'm trying to go, or is this simply a detour that I've got to think through and that I can learn from, or that is really going to give me some additional information, additional connections, additional knowledge that I need in order to get to the thing? Strategy doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be, Peter Drucker 500 pages of stuff. It doesn't have to be difficult. What strategy needs to be is clear, adaptable, flexible, focused. Strategy needs to be aligned with who you are and where you are, and with the vision of what it is you want. Strategy is simply the thing that helps propel you where you want to go. It prevents you from just throwing spaghetti up against the wall and wishing. In recruiting, they used to call it post and pray, right? Let's just post it everywhere and pray somebody applies. It's not an issue right now, but that used to call it post and pray, right? Having a strategy keeps you from doing something like that. Having a strategy says, here's the kind of people I need because they have these kind of skills. And because I know the kind of skills I want, I can go seek these skill sets in places where I'm more likely to find them. I understand what I want. I understand what it takes to get what I want. And then I act in a manner which gives me a higher probability of success. If I'm looking for engineers, am I going to go post my jobs at every liberal arts college I can find? Probably not. I'm going to go post at those colleges that have really good, heavy, strong technical programs, because the likelihood of my finding engineers that are going to be willing and able and capable and desirous of the positions I'm looking for is much higher in that kind of environment. That's not to say you won't find an engineer at a liberal arts college, but the probability, right? You're playing the odds. The odds of finding what you need are higher if you go to a place where those skills exist. So don't think about strategy as some big, crazy, long, drawn out, painful process going through the absolute nitty gritty. That's a corporate fallacy. We spend more time with strategy and less time in execution because at some point you got to do something. Strategy can simply be a piece of paper and a couple of pens. Where am I trying to go and what are the things I need to think about? And then being open enough to admit information that comes along as you move, right? Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Write down as much as you can. I know I'm very visual, so I like to have all of my little colored pencils and blank pieces of paper and draw and write and because it stays in my mind that way. It's a connection of mind and body for me when I do that. Some people like the digital planners. Some people like the bullet point journaling. Some people just like to type it out or talk it out. I tend to be more visual than that. So whatever you need to get your mind around the strategy for getting where you want is what you should do. And with all of that being said, most critical is making the time to do it. If it is important, you will find a way. If it is not, you will find an excuse. How about let's make your strategy an important part of your success? And that's the Rutledge Perspective this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to give you a heads up that something really great is coming in September. I'm working on it through the month of August, and you will start seeing some advertisements for it for you to be able to find a way and have a way to spend more time with me on a regular basis, either one-on-one or in group settings. And so that's coming along with some swag and some other things. And I just appreciate so much all of the love and all of the following and all of the sharing. I am still pushing to get to 12,000 downloads as of this podcast in the first week of August of 2022. We're only about 30 downloads away, but with Libsyn having a little bit of an issue, my stats actually keep going up and down. So they were 11,962 and then they were at 11,938. So I don't even know where it is. So I figure mid-month will be the goal. And I've got a couple of little swag boxes I'm putting together to give away as a celebration of that achievement. So I thank you so much for tuning in, for being supportive of the podcast and of the messages. And I really do want to know what are some things you would like me to address and talk about in that area of leadership and career and alignment, vision, and action, right? Everything falls into alignment, vision, and action. So if there's something that is burning that you want to talk about, please let me know. In the meantime, have a fantastic week. Make time to really plan a strategy for those big things you're trying to do, and even the little things. Make time for that strategy. You will give yourself a lot more freedom to move if you do that. Take care, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. You have been listening to the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and for connecting. You can find previous episodes of the podcast on my website at laurelrutledge.com/podcast. You can also find me on social media at Laurel K. Rutledge and/or The Rutledge Perspective. And I'd love your perspective on the things we talk about. And if there's a specific topic you want me to cover, just let me know. And please share this podcast with someone in your village who may need this little piece of perspective today. And if you're so inclined, I would really appreciate a 5-star rating and review on the platform of your choice. Apple Podcasts and Spotify reviews are particularly helpful. Thank you again for listening. Take care.